Hi, and welcome to another Choices History Moment. I'm Dennis, and today we're going to explore the first mystery in American history. In the late 15th century, the Spanish had begun to build an empire in the New World, in Florida, and in South America, and in Mexico, and in the American Caribbean. Queen Elizabeth of England wanted England to have an empire as well because the Spanish were getting incredibly rich off New World gold. So she set out to begin a colony in the New World for the purpose of finding gold and getting rich, like the Spanish. And so a small expedition of men was taken to the shores of Virginia in the Chesapeake Bay area and left there. They didn't survive very long. When people came back to resupply them, they were gone. A second set of men were left with 2 years' worth of supplies. When people came back to check on them, 12 of them were starving, 3 had gone off hunting, and they rescued the 12 and left the 3 to their fate. And then finally, after those terrible failures, they decided the right thing to do was to send families. So 115 people, couples, young boys, who were there for labor purposes, they went to establish the Roanoke colony. And establish it they did. The governor left his family there, his daughter and her husband. His daughter was pregnant at the time. And they stayed in Roanoke. They came in August, which was not a very good idea because there wasn't time to plant crops before the winter. Why they couldn't see that, I don't understand. But nevertheless, this is what happened. So he decided to go to the grocery store. That meant all the way back to England, 3,000 miles across the Atlantic. When he got back to England, war had broken out with Spain. Because of this, the Queen forbade any ships going to the New World during the duration of the war, for a number of reasons, not the least of which every ship was needed to combat the Great Spanish Armada. So White couldn't go check on his family, his daughter and his son-in-law, and the other 115 people that were there. And so finally, after 3 years, he was able to go. And when he get there, at first he felt good. He could see from a distance as they approached the shore that houses had been built and there was a defensive wall. But to his shock, when he got out of the boat, he discovered the entire little village had been abandoned. And laying among the weeds and the grass were muskets and tools, personal possession like jewels, valuable things. You imagine if the nearest hardware store was in London, 3,000 miles away, how much a hoe was worth, let alone a rifle. Yet they dumped all that on the ground and disappeared. They'd had a pre-decided signal that if they were forced to leave because of hostile Indians, that they would carve X's on trees, a cross rather, on the trees. And they looked for them and they couldn't find them. On one tree, they found the letters C-R-O. On another tree, the word Croatoan. Croatoan actually was an Indian tribe in an island nearby. So it was assumed they may have gone to join those Indians. But no one ever knows. They were never found. They disappeared. And there, to this day, no archaeological evidence of them whatsoever. The closest thing that's ever been found was some English sailors later on, much later, in a trash pit in an Indian village, found a saber, a writing slate, and some other English-type possessions. But they have no idea if the Indians had traded for these or simply found them. Stories persisted for generations that there were light-skinned, gray-eyed Indians living in that part of the world, and they claimed to be descendants of the Roanoke survivors, that they had joined the local Indian tribe rather than freeze to death and starve that winter. However, it's been hotly debated by archaeologists and historians all through the years. The latest word is this: DNA testing. And that is, there was at least one man that they found named Brown. As far as anybody could track back through his father's history, his family has been known as Brown, and he's from the Roanoke area, and all his ancestors are as well. 2 of the men who were lost in the colony were named Brown, and they did DNA testing on this gentleman, and they discovered that he is a mixture of English and American Indian? Could he be a descendant of one of the Browns who survived the lost colony? No one knows. But the greatest romantic figure of the lost colony of Roanoke is a woman named Virginia Dare. We know very little about her, other than the fact she was born August 18th, 1587, the first child, English child, born in the Americas. The first American, really. But yet, she disappeared with the colony. Romantic stories have been written about her. Speculation has been made that she was sold into slavery by Indians and traveled far across the country to other tribes. These things did happen. Indians held slaves and often traded them in captives, war captives. Could that have happened? We really just don't know. There's no end of speculation. And until concrete archaeological evidence is found, which it may never be, we'll never really know what happened to the lost colonists of Roanoke and the first American, Virginia Dare. Well, that's another Choices History moment. Be sure to like and subscribe us and join in with us again as we explore history and its mysteries, its intrigue, and all the funny, odd things that are out there. Thank you.